All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er mock draft 4.0. That's right, the fourth edition of the mock draft. In fact, I was looking today at Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper's mock drafts. And, interestingly enough, Daniel Jeremiah says that the 49ers are going to go with Chop Robinson, a defensive end out of Penn State, where Mel Kiper Jr. says they're going with Roger Rosengarten, an offensive tackle from the University of Washington, who's made 28 career starts. All right, we are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. All right, let's talk a little bit about Mock Draft 4.0, and then we will get this up here. In fact, I will type in NFL Mock Draft Simulator, and we'll fire away. We're going to go with the Pro Football Network simulator just because we've used it a lot. It's pretty easy. We got a pretty good idea of what it's going to be. So we go 7 rounds, fast. We highlight the Niners. Before we enter the draft room, though, I want to talk about like kind of the parameters here. To me, the 49ers have a number of needs. I would say in no particular order. They need maybe a late round running back, a tight end that's got some upside. They definitely need an offensive tackle of the future, a starter. They could use a dominating interior offensive lineman as well, a center or a guard. I think that's kind of an underrated need. Wide receiver, they got a deep wide receiver core, but they could go with a speed threat at wide receiver. There's also Jerry Rice's kid. There's McCaffrey's brother. There's those two guys to consider. Defensive tackle, I think they've covered themselves pretty well, but they could definitely use at least one body there. Edge rusher, I think they've covered themselves well, but they could definitely use another edge rusher. Linebacker, I think they could definitely use a linebacker with Dre Greenlaw out. I think they definitely need a safety, maybe even 2. And in my opinion, one of the most underrated needs for the 49ers is a true number 1 corner. You say, well, why do they need a number 1 corner? Look at what L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie did in the Super Bowl. I think if there's anything to be learned there is that if you can have dominating DBs, you got a chance to win any game. The Niners have Lenore and they have Mooney, but they're starting Ambry as that third spot, and they could use one dominant corner. So that's kind of my dilemma coming into this mock draft 4.0. Do I go for the number 1 corner? Do I trade up in the draft using Brandon Ayuk? I'm not going to do that. I've decided I'm not going to do that. And then, or do I emphasize the offensive line and who are the real great difference maker offensive linemen that this team can have? Because they're covered with Brendel and McKivitz and Feliciano in week 1. But what about the future? I don't think the future of the Niner offensive line is in-house yet. So I'd like to have both. To me, there's 2 primary needs: the number 1 corner and the future on the offensive line. Those are the 2 number 1 needs. Can you get them both done in one draft? There's been a lot of speculation that the 49ers may be talking to the Denver Broncos about a trade involving draft picks for Patrick Surtain. I think it's probably going to take like 2 2s and 2 3s, or it's probably going to take a 1, a 2, and a 3. In this mock draft, the way I'm going to do this one is I'm going to throw out a trade to the Broncos where I'm offering them the Niners 2024 second round pick and third round pick, and a conditional 2025 second or third round pick for Surtain. So they're either going to trade 2 2s and a 3, or a 2 and 2 3s to Denver for Surtain. Now, some people would say that's not high enough. Other people would say that's too much. If you can do this without trading this year's number 1, I would do it. So If I had to, I would consider maybe a 2 and a 3 this year. And if they don't want to give up, if they want a 1, then maybe I would consider giving my 1 in 2025. So maybe a 1 in 2025 and a 2 and a 3 this year, something like that. Somewhere in there, I think, or maybe a 2 and a 3 this year and a conditional first or second next year, depending on how well Surtain does and if the Niners win this year. Um, if they win the Super Bowl, maybe their 2 turns into a 1. I don't know, something conditional. But I would trade. That's where I'd start. So I'm going to do this mock draft, assuming that the Niners' second and third round picks are going to Denver for Surtain. And so we're going to ignore those picks. We'll just pick some randoms. So here we go. We're going to enter the draft room. We still have our number 1 this year. We don't have our 2. We don't have our 3, but we go into this draft knowing that we have Patrick Surtain. So we have that number 1 corner. And now we're picking in the first round. Let's fire away. Let's see what it looks like. Before we do that, we might as well want to share the screen so everybody else can see the board. And here we go. All right. Okay. Here we go. You can see the board there. And so now we enter the draft. We've got Patrick Surtain. We're not going to pick in the second and third round. I mean, we will because of the exercise, but they won't be for us. They'll just be randoms we'll throw out there. Whoever the highest people on the board is, we'll just plug in there. But the Niners are going to pick in the first round and then not again until the fourth round, but they will have Surtain. All right, here we go. Enter the draft. Who goes 1? Caleb Williams goes 1 to the Bears. We're moving down. We're at 31. Now, in this draft as well, I'm not going to do trades unless they're just absolutely ridiculously over the top. So I'm not going to get everybody that I want to get here, but I'm going to reject that trade, 31 for 49. I'm going to reject Seattle's trade. So now I'm just on the board. I'm on the board at 31. I've got a number 1 corner, but I still have needs at running back, tight end, offensive tackle, offensive guard, wide receiver, defensive tackle, edge, inside linebacker, safety. But I don't really have that need at corner. I've got good depth at corner, and I've got a true number 1. So I don't need a corner anymore. So, okay, so let's look who's on the board. You can go Byron Murphy, the big defensive tackle. You could go Graham Barton, who I think is a very good guard. Michael Penix is there, but I won't mess with him. Christian Haynes is a really good guard. Darius Robinson is a good edge rusher from Missouri. Tavondre Sweat is that 2-gapper from Texas. But I'm going to go with Zach Frazier from the University of West Virginia. 6'2", 310, one of the strongest interior linemen in the country, it says. May not excel in space as an athletic player, but he effectively handles players in front of him, whether in the run game or the pass game. I've watched his film. He's dominating. He's dominating at the point of attack. This guy is absolutely a dominating center. So I'm taking him. So I'm going center at the start of the draft with Zach Frazier. Now I'm picking here at 62, 63, and it's just anybody. So I'll just go Penix, even though it's not going to be, it's going to be this is Denver. This is a pick for Denver. So this is not the Niners pick. So we'll just take Penix, get that out of the way. Now we'll go to the third round and we'll take Braylon Allen, get that out of the way. And so now the next pick is a 49er pick. So now, and we'll hide all that. Now, in this scenario, I would probably do this next trade. I would probably trade back and pick up that extra pick, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to plug and pick in this draft to make it real simple. All right, so I've got my need going at center, and I've got my number 1 corner. So now let's go check out offensive tackle and see who's on the board. Now, I love Javon Foster, and I love Garrett Greenfield. And I really like Christian Jones as well, who look really good in the one-on-ones. I kind of like Frank Crum as well. of this group, I like Greenfield the best. Now, Foster's got long arms and strong hands, but Greenfield to me, I think, is really a very good player. Now I'm down at 132, and it says I could drop to 146 and get an extra pick, and I would normally do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to stay with the Niners picks here, and let's see who's on the board. At this point, I think I'm going to take the safety from Wake Forest, Malik Mustafa. Brandon Rice is there. You've got some other guys there. Chow Smith Wade, the corner from Wazoo's there. Isaiah Davis, nice running back from South Dakota State. But the Niners, I think, really need a safety. This Dadrion Taylor Demerson from Texas Tech's a really good player, but he doesn't have the power of Malik Mustafa. So I'll take Mustafa from Wake Forest at 132. And it's good value. He's listed at 123 overall. He's on the board here at 132. I'll take Malik Mustafa. Okay, so I've got Mustafa in the fold. Now I'm picking again. I'm at 135. And I'll go to all. You know, I can take Rice's kid if I want. Isaiah Davis. Man, Jonah Ellis might be hard to pass here. I mean, you're getting a really good pass rusher, but you also have Luke McCaffrey, who I'd like to have. He's at 154. Do I go Jonah Ellis and maybe lose out on Luke McCaffrey? Or do I go Luke McCaffrey right here? I still think the pass rusher has got to take precedence. So I'm going to go Jonah Ellis from Utah. Just too good. And I think I'm probably going to lose out on McCaffrey, but here we go. Jonah Ellis at 130 whatever. Yep, and McCaffrey is off the board. So I lost out on McCaffrey. Now I'm here at 176. Okay, so I'm at 176. I have Zach Frazier. I've got a number one corner in Patrick Surtain. Forget Penix and Allen. Those are non-picks. I've got the offensive tackle Greenfield. I've got the safety Mustafa. I've got an edge rusher in Jonah Ellis. And I still have 4 picks left, and I'm picking at 176. Okay, so, where's the need? I would say, go to all, and let's take a look at all. Who's the best players available across the board? Take a look at the defensive side. Who's available at tackle? I like Crumedy from Mississippi State. I like Marcus Harris. I like Evan Anderson. They're a little down the board. I don't need an edge rusher. Linebacker-wise, Aaron Casey from Indiana is a good player. Olofosio from Washington is incredibly fast. Muasau from UCLA is undersized, but a really good player. Nathaniel Watson's a really good player. Kalen DeLoach is a really good player, but I love Kari Coleman, the linebacker from Ole Miss. So I'm thinking of Kari Coleman. Let's check the edge rush class, see if there's anybody there, just because you can never have enough good edge rushers. And sure enough, one of my favorite players in the entire draft is there. It's Muhammad Kamara. So I'm taking Muhammad Kamara. I'm going double edge rusher right there. So now I've got Kamara and I've got, I've got Jonah Ellis. So I've got 2 really good edge rushers. I got a lot of edge rush right now. If I'm looking at my draft, it looks pretty good right now. Zach, I've got Surtain. I've got Zach Frazier, a true number one dominating center. I've got a future tackle in Garrett Greenfield, who I really like. I got a thumper at safety in Mustafa. And I got 2 edge rushers. And I still have 3 picks left. 211, 215, 251. Okay, at this point, probably going best available. But, you're also looking at some needs. So what's left as far as your needs? You've gotten the interior offensive line taken care of. You've got the offensive tackle spot taken care of. You've got the edge rusher taken care of. You got safety and you got corner taken care of. So your needs now are linebacker, D-tackle, maybe a late running back, and maybe speed at wide receiver. All right. So let's see who's on the board. Tight end would be nice. McLaughlin's a good tight end for sure. But I also love Mason Plumline. Or Mason Pline, I should say, from Furman. Really like Mason Pline from Furman quite a bit. Basketball player, interesting developmental prospect. Defensive tackle wise, Crumity's sitting there from Mississippi State. Marcus Harris is a little undersized, but I like him from Auburn. Um, Really good football player. How much is that a need? So defensive tackle, inside backer. You've got you could probably go tight end or running back. Let's check running back. Who's on the board at running back? Um, Dejon Edwards from Georgia is interesting. Really interesting back. Jabari Small is an interesting back. He's like 5'7", but he's 213 pounds from Tennessee. He's really interesting. And then there's Frank Gore, who's sitting there. Do you want Frank Gore's kid? And then there's wide receiver wise. Flournoy runs well from Southeast Missouri State. Gould from Oregon State runs well. Tulu Griffin runs incredibly well. Mississippi State. Bub Means runs well from Pittsburgh. There's a lot of guys, a lot of speed at wide receiver still on the board here. Marcus Rosemi Jack Saint from Georgia is a good player. There's some interesting guys here for sure. Jaquan Burton is an outstanding talent. Florida Atlantic. Is Tyler Harrell on the board? Yeah, Tyler Harrell still there, the burner from Miami. So they really don't have a need at wide receiver. They do need a tight end, and they do need another inside linebacker. I'm going to go inside linebacker here. I think I'm going. To me, I'm going Kari Coleman. I don't know if you guys have watched Kari Coleman. He's 6'1", 214 pounds. He's a transfer. He played at Ole Miss. This guy's really electric. Really like Kari Coleman. He's either as a backup linebacker or as a special teamer. So I'll go Kari Coleman right here. At 215, now the value, I think, still at linebacker. There's still some good players at linebacker. But I'm looking best available, and there's a few players that I'm really looking for. One of them, I like Jaden Crumity from Mississippi State. That could be a pick. I like Frank Crum from Wyoming. That could be a pick. But I think I'm going to go with the tight end that I really like from Furman, the basketball player. The basketball player tight end, I think I'm going to go with here. I really like this kid. His name's Mason Pline, and he's 6'8", and he's just, to me, he's super smart. Mechanical engineering major. He's very athletic, 6'8" receiver. I like Pline a lot. To me, that's a steal. So now you're at 251, and I believe this is their last pick. Yeah, this is their last pick. So they filled a bunch of needs. They filled the tight end, the offensive tackle, the offensive interior, the corner, the safety, the linebacker, the edge rusher. They still haven't filled the defensive tackle spot and the speed wide receiver spot and the late round running back spot. So let's see who's available. Late round running back wise, you got some good options. As I said, I'm a huge fan of Jabari Small. Cody Schrader from Missouri is a really good player. He might be a fullback. Jaden Sheridan from Monmouth is a Mel Kiper favorite. And then there's Frank Gore Jr. Do you go Frank Gore Jr. here? Or quarterback wise, you don't need anybody. But at wide receiver, there's a lot of speed at wide receiver. And Marcus Rosemi, Jack Saint is a good receiver. He's not necessarily a burner, but I think he's kind of underrated from Georgia. There's a running back named Dante Miller who was transferred to South Carolina from the Ivy League, but he's such a sleeper that he's not even on this board. That tells you about that. There's also a lineman named Chapman who plays at LSU, who's a D tackle, who's also a stud, who's 5'10", 275. He's not on this board. So what do you do? On defense, Sundiata Anderson is another edge rusher. Crumity's there if you want the big defensive tackle. Muasau's there if you want a linebacker. Marcus Harris, I think, is the guy that I'm going to go with over Frank Gore. I think you might be able to get Frank Gore to sign with you after the draft. Marcus Harris is a really good 290-pound, strong defensive lineman with quickness from Auburn. So I'm going to go Marcus Harris. So there's my draft. There you go. I got Patrick Surtain. I got a number one corner. And then I think, the best interior offensive lineman in Zach Frazier. Forget these two picks because they're going to Denver. I got a really good backup offensive tackle in Garrett Greenfield, who I like. I got a thumper at safety in Malik Mustafa, who I love. I got two of the very best edge rushers in the draft, in my opinion, in Jonah Ellis and Muhammad Kamara. And I got them in the middle rounds. I got a really fast linebacker in Kari Coleman. I got a developmental tight end who I really like in Mason Pline. And I got Marcus Harris, who I think can make my team at tackle, defensive tackle. So it's not bad. That's not a bad draft. Once again, I went into this mock saying I got two primary needs. I want to bolster my offensive line for the future with guys that I really like, and big time offensive linemen. And then I want to get a number one corner so that my top three corners are Mooney and Surtain and Lenore, and Ambry Thomas and the rest of those guys are on the bench. And in this draft, I got Surtain, and then I think Zach Frazier takes Brendel's job right away. I think there's a very good chance that Greenfield competes with McKivitz at right tackle right away. Mustafa, I think, can play as a rookie. Jonah Ellis and Kamara absolutely can rush and add to the outside rush as rookies. The last three picks are players that I like. They're developmental players with the ability to make the roster as rookies and to elevate into starters. I think, there's a time that Pline and Coleman, maybe even Harris, could wind up being starters. So there you go. Mock draft 4.0. We got Surtain and we got Garrett Greenfield and Zach Frazier to bolster the offensive line. And you got a couple of really impactful edge rushers right away. So overall, I would say I like the look of mock draft 4.0. Leave a comment in the comments below. But before we get out of here, let's get a word from our sponsor of this video, Aura. Have you ever typed your name on the internet and seen all of your private information is online? Are you tired of receiving tons of spam calls from random numbers? Are you receiving more and more of these as time has gone on? Well, that's where Aura, the sponsor of today's show, can really help you out. Data brokers sell your information to scammers and spammers and anyone else who may want to target you. Your full name, your email, your home address, all your records, your health records, who your relatives are. It's all out there. That's why I've been using Aura. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it also protects me from hackers who could use the information to help them access my social media accounts, my bank accounts, or any other sensitive information. Aura also does so much more to protect me and my family from online threats I can't see. I get other features like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more without having to download several different apps. It's really easy to set up. And best of all, I get everything at one affordable price. I value my privacy and I value yours. You can go to the link in the description to start your 2-week free trial. All right, thanks to Aura for sponsoring the video, and thanks to, of course, Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show, and thanks to all you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.